We're joined now by Jeremy Chan. He's Senior Analyst for China and Northeast Asia at the Eurasia Group. Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I want to start by asking you about, Yoon's continued evasion, if you like, of these summons. I mean, despite his defense team saying they intend to cooperate, I'm wondering what the legal strategy is, for Yoon and his team. And how long, can he continue to dodge, these requests for him to appear for questioning?
It's a good question, Arnold. Thank you for asking it. I think there's a legal strategy at play. I think there's a political strategy as well. Both of them are overlapping right now. And what Yoon is trying to do is to deflect and, as you said, dodge these types of investigations and inquiries for as long as possible. But more broadly, he and his legal team are trying to undermine the legal basis for the insurrection charges. They contest the legal basis for that. They believe that as the former president, when he was president, that he had the legal authority to declare martial law at any time, that this was well within his legal authorities, and that this ongoing investigation is illegitimate fundamentally.
First, just to zoom in on President Yoon's defense, it's largely rooted in claims of national security risks, political conspiracy, and that the criteria for an insurrection are not met. Just how strong do you think Yoon's defense is, given the available evidence right now and testimonies?
I don't think that the defense is particularly strong. It's worth noting that Yoon is a career prosecutor. He's not a career politician. And so I think he views this as a legal battle, and he will contest it to the very end. He believes fundamentally that he did not commit insurrection, that even bringing these charges against a sitting president is an illegitimate action. And so he's going to contest it every step of the way. It's also worth noting, however, that the most senior officials involved in helping Yoon carry out this very short-lived martial law order on December 3rd, his former defense minister, the army chief of staff, they've both been arrested and are likely to face imprisonment as well. So that's the general direction of travel that we're on right now. But President Yoon is going to fight it tooth and nail every step of the way.
Jeremy, lawmakers in the National Assembly have been fighting over the 3 vacant seats at the Constitutional Court. Can you help us understand why they are important to Yoon's PPP? And also the opposition Democratic Party? Presumably they are important for very different reasons.
Yes, well, so they're important for both legal reasons and political reasons, as I mentioned earlier. The legal reasons are that you need at least 6 of the 9 justices to uphold the impeachment motion, for the impeachment to go through, in other words. And there are only 6 sitting justices, so all of them would have to unanimously agree, given the current composition of the court, for Yoon to officially be impeached and removed from office. However, there are 3 vacancies, and the Democratic Party of Korea, the center-left opposition, is trying to fill those seats, ideally, in their estimation, by the end of the month. The complication is that process requires the approval of the president. Now, the acting president, Han Duck-soo, or at least his staff, have indicated that he does not have that authority currently, that it still resides with Yoon. So there's a little bit of a political back and forth here. But more broadly, what's happening here is that what the PPP is trying to do is play for time, because the longer this process drags out, the more likely it is that the Supreme Court is going to rule on a conviction that was handed down last month to the leader of the opposition party, Lee Jae-myung, who is the presumed frontrunner to become the next president of the country. But if the Supreme Court upholds that conviction from last month, he will be invalidated from participating in the next election. So high political stakes here.
Jeremy, just hopping back to your point about the acting president, Han Duck-soo, is there clarity, constitution-wise, if you like? Is he duty-bound to accept, these names when they arrive at his desk, if they arrive at his desk for official acceptance?
So he's not duty-bound to accept them. The authority to accept them normally sits with the president, and all presidential authorities have been devolved to Han now that Yoon is in this kind of suspended animation state here. So in theory, the authority resides with him. There is a little bit of back and forth, though, in normal times between the justices or the nominees that the National Assembly puts forward and who the president ultimately wants to agree to. So in normal times, this would be a relatively smooth process. In these more contested times, obviously very politically fraught, and a president or acting president Han is going to come under tremendous pressure to at least delay the proceedings as long as possible and to potentially reject nominations that are considered overly progressive from the center left.
Jeremy, given the politically charged nature of this case, as you mentioned, just how confident are you that the Constitutional Court ensures that its verdict remains impartial? And what are the political ramifications if there is to be a split decision?
So there's precedents here. The Constitutional Court in 2004 overturned an impeachment motion. And the president at the time, Yoon, ended up serving out the remainder of his term for 3+ more years. So that's happened in the past, but those were under very different political circumstances. Roe had sort of the court of public opinion in his favor, and his approval rating went up during the impeachment process. Yoon is facing a very different battle here. He's politically radioactive. He has no base. His support within the party, among the people, among lawmakers, and I believe on the court has collapsed entirely. I do believe that there's a risk that if the court is split in some way, or if for procedural reasons, Yoon is able to escape because one or two justices do not support the motion, that you could have a more or less of a constitutional crisis where Yoon would be reinstated in office, but he would be considered widely illegitimate, and you'd probably see a second attempt to impeach him. So I think what the DP on the left is trying to do is to stuff the court and fill those last 3 vacancies so they can give themselves a little bit of room for error, just in case you do have 1 or 2 of most likely Yoon-appointed justices who feel a bit squeamish about supporting the motion.
So while there is a chance that Mr. Yoon is reinstated through this trial, South Korea's political focus is already turning to potential successors. You briefly mentioned Lee Jae-myung, but as of now, who appears to have the strongest chance of emerging as the next leader?
Yeah, we believe that were the election to be held today, that Mr. Lee, who narrowly lost the 2022 presidential election to Yoon, would be the clear frontrunner to win. He is the alpha and omega of the center-left opposition and would be their nominee for sure. Also, it's worth noting that the conservatives, the PPP, are essentially in ruins currently. And so we would expect whoever that the Democratic Party of Korea, the center-left, nominates to be the heavy favorite, Mr. Lee in particular. But of course, he has his own legal challenges that he's battling here. And so the longer that this impeachment process drags out, the greater the risk is for Mr. Lee that he himself will be disqualified as well. And we could actually see a competition between 2 very new political faces on both the left and the right.
All right, Jeremy, we have to leave it there for now. We thank you for your time and for your thoughts as well. Jeremy Chan is Senior Analyst for China and Northeast Asia at the Eurasia Group.